Greetings from our channel. The audience may view Richard Gere as the epitome of a perfect star, a dashing gentleman, because of his endearing appearance and well-known roles in Pretty Woman and An Officer and a Gentleman. Behind that grin, though, Richard and #039's life has been a jumble of conflicts between inner calm and celebrity. He bravely faced strong forces in the cause of justice while battling through a variety of adversities under the brilliant stage lights, including tumultuous romantic relationships and human rights battles. Why would a man with a successful career like Richard decide to take a chance and make many sacrifices for humanitarian principles? Come along as we examine Richard Gere and #039's poignant and nuanced story. To learn more about the true man behind the spotlight, early life, not only via his incredible career but also through the quiet, significant times in his personal life. Born in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, on August 31, 1949, Richard Gere came from a morally upright household. Originally hoping to become a pastor, his father, Homer George Gere, decided to pursue a career in insurance in order to provide for his family. Doris Ann, his mother, was a devoted housewife who devoted her life to raising her kids and creating a cozy household. Being the second of 5 children, Richard felt the weight of his family and #039's expectations being placed on him from a young age. When Richard was a child, his family relocated to Syracuse, New York, where he grew up in a devoutly religious setting. Of the Methodist religion. Richard and #039's outlook and way of living were greatly impacted by the Gere family and #039's adherence to traditional moral and spiritual standards. The family placed a great value on virtues like honesty, loyalty, and humility, which gave Richard a solid moral basis. But he also experienced the pressure to fit into the molds that society and his family wanted him to. Richard showed exceptional skill at an early age, especially in athletics and music. He was a lively and artistically sensitive youngster who excelled as a gymnast at school quite fast. In addition, his trumpet-playing abilities, which called both dexterity and technique, were exceptional. He turned music from a pastime to a passion, which helped him cope with the unseen stress of meeting his family and #039's expectations. Richard felt liberated and fully himself when he was immersed in music. Richard was the standout athlete and academic achiever at North Syracuse Central High School. A remarkable accomplishment for a young man from a middle-class household, his gymnastics skills earned him a sports scholarship to the University of Massachusetts Amherst. Even though he was a successful athlete, Richard never really enjoyed pursuing goals or winning championships. He was continuously prodded from within by the inner urge to learn more about the outside world and himself. Richard decided to major in philosophy at the University of Massachusetts because he believed it would enable him to better understand the nature of mankind and life. But after 2 years of study, Richard came to the conclusion that his innate yearning for art could not be met by academia. Even though he was aware that his family could be disappointed, he chose to leave school to follow his passion for theater and movies. Early career: he went to Seattle after graduating from the University of Massachusetts Amherst and joined the Repertory Theater, where he made his theatrical debut in Rosencrantz and Guildenstern Are Dead. Although his early parts wherein and #039's the leads, he saw them as chances to develop his skills, experience the theater industry, and discover his own voice. Richard and #039's first major break came in 1973 when he was cast in the lead role of the original London run of the well-known musical Grease. This was a pivotal moment in Richard and #039's career because it helped him make a name for himself internationally in addition to being the first time he was acknowledged in public. He enthralled London audiences with his charisma and limitless energy, setting the groundwork for a successful career. But not everything went as planned. Things abruptly came to a standstill in 1974 when he went to the United States to act in The Lords of Flatbush. Richard lost the chance when a disagreement with co-star Sylvester Stallone resulted in his replacement. He had to face the question of whether he really belonged in the film industry after this setback. Richard, nevertheless, persisted. He persisted in looking for work, and his performance in Looking for Mr. Goodbar in 1977 started to draw notice from Hollywood. Despite the lack of significant monetary success, Richard and #039's genuine and nuanced performance left a lasting impression. He also began to get recognition at this time for his performance in Terrence Malick and #039's 1978 picture Days of Heaven, in which he demonstrated his nuanced ability to play nuanced and eerie characters. These roles helped Richard establish himself in the film industry, even though he wasn't an #039's yet a big celebrity. More significantly, they demonstrated his tenacity and unshakable dedication. Every accomplishment was the result of sweat drops, patience, and a strong sense of self-worth. Early setbacks could have caused many to crumble, but Richard made the decision to get back up and keep going, always looking for his own way. He bravely chose to play a gay Holocaust victim in the Broadway production of Bent in the late 1970s. Richard was not afraid to take chances during a period when society was not prepared to embrace such responsibilities. Because he defied expectations to give a strong and moving performance, this role not only tested him as an actor but also as a person. He won the Theatre World Award for this choice, signifying a significant turning point in his theatrical career and reaffirming his standing as an actor prepared to confront and overcome social norms. Fame and #039's ascent. With the release of American Gigolo in the 1980s, Richard had really achieved the height of his stardom. He was transformed from a budding actor into a Hollywood star by that pivotal event. Richard made a lasting impression on viewers by playing the enigmatic and captivating male escort Julian Kay. In addition to being a box financial hit, American Gigolo gave Richard Gere a significant boost and helped him become well-known. Richard Gere was the epitome of enticement because of his cool manner, deep-set eyes, and magnetic charm. He didn't and #039's stop there, though. An Officer and a Gentleman, 1982, another iconic movie that signaled a significant turning point in his career, swiftly cemented his reputation. In addition to winning, he received his first Golden Globe nomination for his depiction as ambitious Navy officer candidate Zach Mayo. Love, the hardships of military life, and the protagonist and #039's quest for self-discovery were all expertly woven together in this picture, demonstrating that Richard was not just a compelling presence but also an exceptional performer. Richard showed that he wasn't and #039's scared to play emotionally complex roles as an officer and a gentleman, and he did it flawlessly. Richard quickly shone his flexibility with the psychological crime thriller Internal Affairs, 1990. The psychological complexity of Richard and #039's performance was brought to light by his portrayal of Raymond Avila, a dishonest internal affairs officer with sinister secrets. Here, viewers witnessed a different Richard Gere, one who was nuanced, cunning, and unpredictable rather than the charming, polished man of his earlier roles. His career took a significant turn with Internal Affairs, demonstrating Richard and #039's ability to immerse himself in mentally taxing parts and consistently challenge himself in novel film genres. However, Pretty Woman, 1990, was Richard Gere and #039's greatest hit. This movie was more than a mere cultural sensation. Richard Gere became one of Hollywood and #039's most popular romantic stars as a result, and his reputation reached new heights. Richard, as the rich, emotional, and cold-hearted businessman Edward Lewis, developed a passionate and romantic bond with Julia Roberts and #039's character, Vivian Ward. Millions of people worldwide were won over by Richard and #039's portrayal of Pretty Woman, which was the ideal fusion of humor and romance. In addition to being a financial success, the movie established Richard as a legendary romantic comedy star and solidified his ability to showcase his range of skills in memorable roles in other movies. In the 1996 psychological thriller Primal Fear, Richard portrayed a crafty, driven defense attorney dealing with a challenging case. This part demonstrated that Richard was not limited to romantic parts but could develop into witty, perceptive, and cunning characters. His versatility was demonstrated in this film, enabling viewers to sense his character and #039's profound psychological development in each picture. Richard and Julia Roberts reunited in the romantic comedy Runaway Bride, 1999. One of the most memorable romantic comedies of the 1990s, the movie had a significant box office appeal because to the pairing of these two performers. Although the plot of Runaway Bride was and #039, very novel, the audience was moved by Richard and Julia and #039's skill and chemistry. In addition to his economic success, Richard Gere made a significant impact with the iconic musical picture Chicago, 2002. In his role as attorney Billy Flynn, Richard not only demonstrated his acting prowess but also dazzled with his singing and dancing skills. In addition to winning Best Picture at the Academy Awards, Chicago earned Richard his first Golden Globe. A significant turning point in his career, confirming that he was a truly multi-talented artist and not merely a movie star. Even though Richard Gere had a very successful career, things weren't and #039 always easy for him. A Difficult Road was produced by audacious character choices and the battle to sustain both artistic and commercial success. One of the most difficult things Richard had to do was strike a balance between the needs of the market and his own desire for parts that required him to display different facets of his performance. Richard Gere chose to push himself with challenging roles in the late 1970s after making a name for himself with Days of Heaven. This led him to make the bold decision to star in the 1979 movie Bent. Richard courageously accepted the task of portraying Max during a period when it was dangerous for any actor to depict a gay Holocaust victim, particularly since society did not fully recognize or comprehend the LGBTQ+ group. Persecuted during the Nazi era was a gay guy. Richard and #039's acceptance of this responsibility not only exhibited his dedication to the art but also his bravery in accepting positions with substantial social and political clout. Amidst the atrocities of the Holocaust, Bent was a tale of honor, love, and survival. In addition to its creative merits, the picture sent a strong message about resistance, love, and human rights. Richard made the artistic decision and took on all the risks, even though taking on such a part at the time could have jeopardized an actor and #039's career. In Bent, Richard Gere demonstrated not just his range as an actor but also his capacity to fully inhabit difficult and nuanced roles. Max and #039's performance in Bent contributed to the establishment of his reputation among critics as well as the general public. When he ventured outside his comfort zone to take on a task that required a great deal of understanding and empathy. But not all of the movies Richard picked were profitable. Such audacious choices occasionally resulted in conflicting public opinions and even box office failures, but Richard saw that as an essential component of building a legitimate acting career. He was always trying to strike a compromise between upholding his creative principles and the necessity for popular amusement. Taking up the part in Bent demonstrated his concept of prioritizing art, taking chances, and facing problems head-on. Private life. Deep and intricate relationships have been a part of Richard Gere and #039's romantic life. He was romantically involved with actress Penelope Milford in the 1970s. During the 7 years of their romance, which spanned 1971 to 1978, Richard Gere was slowly making a name for himself in the movie business. During those early, challenging years when he was still an unknown actor, Penelope was at his side. This connection, which marked the beginning of Richard and #039's rich love life, left him with many lasting memories. Richard Gere continued to date well-known celebrities after splitting from Penelope, most notably Priscilla Presley, the former wife of King of Rock, Elvis Presley. Despite the brief duration of their courtship, Richard and Priscilla and #039's relationship garnered a lot of public interest, gaining popularity at the time in the media. He was then alleged to have dated several well-known women, including Brazilian supermodel Sylvia Martins, Tuesday Weld, and Carol Mallory. But Richard Gere and #039's relationship with Cindy Crawford, the world and #039's most renowned supermodel, was arguably the most well-known and startling of the 1990s. Famous photographer Herb Ritts threw a gathering in 1988 where the two first met. At the age of 37, Richard was already a well-known actor, while Cindy was 22 and a rising star in the fashion industry. They fell in love right away, even though they were only 17 years apart. They quickly rose to prominence as one of Hollywood and #039's power couples, drawing interest from both fans and the media. Richard and Cindy were formally married in a private and unexpected ceremony in Las Vegas in 1991. However, they divorced in 1995 after only 4 years of marriage. Cindy subsequently revealed that their relationship was hampered by their disparate lifestyles and ages. At 22, Richard was at a different stage of life, looking for a more secure family life, while she was still figuring out who she was and what she wanted to do for a living. Actress Carrie Lowell marked the beginning of a new chapter in Richard Gere and #039's romantic life following his divorce from Cindy Crawford. Their connection swiftly blossomed into a passionate love after they first met in the late 1990s. Their first son, Homer James Jigme Gere, was born in 2000. The name has significant meaning for Richard and #039's father, as it reflects his Tibetan Buddhist religion. The early years of Richard and Carrie and #039's family life were calm since they took good care of their young kid and spent a lot of time together. After several years of dating, Richard and Carrie formally confirmed their love in a loving ceremony in 2002. But after over 10 years of dating, they too had marital problems. Carrie desired a more active social life, whereas Richard desired solitude and quiet. They eventually drifted away due to their different lifestyles, and in 2013 they made the decision to split up. Due to disagreements over assets and child custody, the divorce took 3 years to complete, but it was finally resolved in 2016. Richard Gere never gave up on seeking real love, even after 2 difficult marriages and other failed relationships. He got back in touch with Spanish social activist Alejandra Silva in 2015. Ignacio Silva is the father of Alejandra. Had long been active in humanitarian causes and was the previous vice president of the Real Madrid football team. Before getting back together in 2015 during the Taormina Film Festival, the two had been friends for a long time. Their connection swiftly developed into a passionate love tale from that point on. Their mutual love of social and humanitarian activities brought Richard and Alejandra together despite their 33-year age difference. Richard and Alejandra discreetly got married at their New York home in 2018. After the ups and downs of life, Alejandra gave Richard a new lease on life and helped him discover contentment and serenity. In February 2019, a year after their wedding, they welcomed Alexander, their first son. With the birth of their second son in 2020, their family and #039's size continues to expand. They both talked about how having a loving, caring family made them happy and fulfilled. According to Alejandra Silva, she and Richard seem to be living in a fantasy world. She keeps saying that he is the most amazing, humorous, and considerate man she has ever encountered. Richard has reciprocated by sharing heartfelt, affectionate words for his wife, who has enabled him to discover true happiness in life. In order to maintain their love, Richard always tries to create tiny yet meaningful moments, asking Alejandra what would make her happy that day every morning. True happiness and love can always be discovered when both parties are prepared to share and care for each other, regardless of age disparities or past struggles, as seen by Richard and Alejandra and #039's love. Richard Gere is well known for his generosity and enormous humanitarian activity, which he has diligently pursued for decades, in addition to his renowned acting career. Notably, he is well known for his unwavering support of human rights and his commitment to international humanitarian endeavors. Richard started his quest to learn about and practice Tibetan Buddhism in the 1970s. His spiritual life underwent a significant sea change in 1978. When he traveled to Nepal to meet Tibetan monks and lamas. In addition to altering Richard and #039's perspective, his meeting with the Dalai Lama motivated him to take an active stance in support of freedom and human rights in Tibet. His reputation has been used to spread awareness of the Tibetan people and #039's struggle under Chinese oppression, and he has been a devoted supporter of the Tibetan independence cause. In order to generate money for humanitarian initiatives pertaining to Tibet, Richard Gere launched the Richard Gere Foundation and co-founded Tibet House US. In addition, He is the head of the International Campaign for Tibet and #039's Board of Directors, which is a non-profit organization devoted to defending the culture and rights of the Tibetan people. In addition to his work supporting Tibet, Richard has been barred from entering China because of his opposition to its leadership. Despite this, he has remained resolute in his views, using his voice and authority to fight for human rights, even though he is aware that this has had a substantial impact on his Hollywood career. In addition, Richard Gere actively supports environmental preservation, indigenous tribal protection, and anti-HIV/AIDS programs. Survival International, a global organization dedicated to defending the rights and territory of indigenous populations worldwide, counts him among its important board members. Richard has additionally helped to create the AIDS Care Home in India, a special care facility for HIV/AIDS affected women and children. Additionally, he has devoted a significant amount of time and funds to promoting HIV/AIDS awareness programs, especially in underdeveloped areas of India. Since he decided to put more of an emphasis on his philanthropic and personal endeavors than his film career, Richard Gere and #039's life has undergone tremendous transformation. Even if he doesn't and #039 play big screen roles as much as he used to, he still participates in independent films, bringing with him multi-layered roles that demonstrate his acting maturity. He is still one of the most gifted and committed actors in the business, as seen by the positive reviews he received for his performance in the 2016 political drama Norman. In 2024, his most recent picture, Oh Canada, made its Cannes Picture Festival debut. In the movie, Richard Gere portrays Leonard Fife, a well-known documentary filmmaker who chooses to share his last secrets after learning that he has terminal cancer. Gere had worked with filmmaker Paul Schrader on the well-known American Gigolo, and the two collaborated on this film. Richard Gere and #039's enormous contributions to film and culture have left a lasting impression on the public, despite the fact that he no longer spends much time in the spotlight in Hollywood and instead prioritizes his family, charitable work, and personal pursuits. In addition to his acting prowess, he is respected for his kindness and commitment to global humanitarian concerns. His life serves as an example of how a celebrity may make a significant effect in real life in addition to shining on screen. I appreciate you watching. To ensure you don't and #039 miss out on more fascinating content, remember to hit the like button and subscribe to the channel. Tell us what you think by leaving a comment. I and #039 LL see you in the upcoming video. Farewell.